Swami, Hare Krishna, Krishna Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Sri Bhakti Bhakti Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Swami Guru Radha Guru Gaman Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Agur Dham Ki Jai Nambikri Dham Ki Jai Dagnapuri Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tosta Devi Ki Jai Namai Ki Jai Kanamai Ki Jai Samvita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga.
Jai, Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Alrighty, Bhagavad Gita class. Introduction prayer, page 1. Omagana Kamadasya Gyana Shalapya Chakshurumita Tasme Sirve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sakita Mina Bhutale Swayam Pakaramayam Adapti Swapatikkam. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes to the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto them. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is established within this material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukthapada Kamalam Shri Gurunam Vaishnavam Shri Yuga Sagrachatam Sahagama Karunapatitam Satsajivam Sarvetam Sarvutam Harijan Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lita Shri Vishka Sarvutam Cha. I have my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all the Vaishnavas. I have my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami, along with his eldest brother Sanatana Goswami, the fellow of Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I have my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, along with the Devakia and Acharya, Gadhar, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Ino Gando Gapate, Gopisha, Gopika, Kanta Radha, Kanta Namo Sute. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distress and the source of the creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. Offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapa Kanchana Garangi Rade, and Dasastare, Vispanu Sute Devi, Pranamame Hare Hare. Offer my respects to Radharani, whose violet complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Krishna, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Pancha Kapada Priyascha, Kripa Sindhu Evascha, Patitanam Padanabhayo, Vaishnavayo, Namo Namaha. Offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditions, for the fallen souls. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Bhakti Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasa, and all the others in alignment with devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are in chapter 14, the three modes of material nature, starting today at verse 26. We recite 11 verses, transcript and translation. That way we hear the entire Bhagavad Gita in 3 months' time. Text 26. Chayo Vipacharana Bhakti Yogina Sevate Sadhuna Sammati Yatnam Rama Bhuyaya Kalpate. Translation: one who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Text 27. Ramano hi partishyatnam aham amitasya yadasya cha shabatyasya cha karmasya shukashvi yanti kasya cha. Translation: and I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal. That's the end of the chapter. Chapter 15. Let's see here. We had 27. So, chapter 15 will end up on verse 9. That'll end us. Chapter 15. The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Uravya Gulam Adya Shakyam Ashvatam Prabhu Abhayam Chandasmi Yasya Pamani Yastam Deveda Samedavi. Translation: the Blessed Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its fruits upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns, and one who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Text 2. Adyas choradam prastasya shakya guna parvidya vishakya Prabhala Ayascha Mulani Anushantatane Ramanubane Nini Manushya Loke. Translation: the branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree are also roots going down, and these are bound for the fruit of the actions of human society. Text 3 and 4. Namgamashaya Tato Parapayate Nanto Nashidir Nacha Sampratishta Asvataminam Sugapudamulam Asanga Sastrina Yudimena Shikva Tataparam Tapanima Vittavayam Yasmin Yatana Nivatanti Bhuya Tameva Charyam Purusham Ardayate Prapadai Yatta Praviti Prashta Purani. Translation: the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But the determination when one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So doing, one must seek the place from which, having once gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything has begun, and whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. Text 5. Nirvana Navajita Sungadosha Adyatma Nitya Blimbhagate Kama Divanadarin Nutakuskadika Samgyatya Yachatnati Amula Param Abhyam Yamtat. Translation: one who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains that eternal kingdom. Text 6. Nata Garyashate Suryo Nasanko Napavako Yagatvana Nivarkante Tadama Paramam Mama. Translation: that abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, or by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. Text 7. Mama Vaikam Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Mana Shasnagni Triyanani Prakriti Chitagni Karshakti. Translation: the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. Text 8. Saramam Yadapatanti Yachati Uttaratishavara Vitvati Nati Samyati Ayurganam Isvasyat. Translation: a living entity in the material world carries different conceptions of life from one body to another as the hair carries aromas. And our final text this evening, text 9. Rukram Chakshu Sparasam Cha Rasanam Garanim Ivacha Arishtaya Manaschayam Vishyam Upasthati. Translation: a living entity thus taking another gross body attains a certain type of ear, tongue, and nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Turning to text 26. Text 26, the 3 modes of material nature. Translation: purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Purport. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions such as Rama, Narayana, and his innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendently situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent, omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, he can overcome them easily. This is already explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire the equality of Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of the gold mine. Thus, the living entity's spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of individuality continues, otherwise there is no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of the two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there is no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification to become a Brahmin or freed from all material contamination is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmavya Sam Material Sam Brahman Papadyate. One can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul. Bhakti Yoga is one thing that transcends these three modes of material nature. Mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. We've been discussing. Mode of goodness is probably one of the most fulfilling out of the three modes. Because you're not so much doing it for yourself, you're doing it for you're serving others, generally in the mode of goodness. That's the quality of the mode of goodness. So you find people in the mode of goodness in humanitarian works, missionary works, working in hospitals, clinics, teaching. These things are, people find the mode of goodness a bit of fulfillment, but it's not complete fulfillment. Mode of passion, as we've discussed, is, chasing after your desires passionately, working like an ass to get what you need, working 60, 70 hours a week, to acquire what you want in life, to gratify your senses, be elevated to, whatever position you want to be at. You continually are pushing yourself to chase after the sense gratification. To get your sense gratification, you got to work hard for it. And that's a mode of passion. Mode of ignorance is those that want to indulge in their senses, sense gratification, don't want to work for it. They don't want to serve others, they don't want to serve themselves. That's a mode of ignorance. When people fall down the mode of ignorance, that leads to badness and insanity. We find them out on the streets, that's, partaked in too much drugs and alcohol over the years. And you find them, losing their minds. But Bhakti Yoga transcends all these three. Bhakti Yoga is complete in its fulfillment. By engaging oneself in Bhakti Yoga, one is engaging himself in Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Each and every activity is around Krishna. It's like your life at the temple, everything revolves around the deities. You get up in the morning and shower, and we come in and we are ready to see the deities first thing in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. Mangal Arti, where we sing and dance to them. We're not singing and dancing for our pleasure. We show up, sing and dance to the deities for their pleasure, for Krishna's pleasure. Everything we do is for Krishna's pleasure in this temple. The deities give us this opportunity to serve Krishna directly through the deities. The deities are this wonderful vessel that God has been invited specifically for us to serve. So every day, the deities are dressed, washed and bathed, fed. We sing to them. We read to them. They're a part of all our activities in this temple. Nothing is complete without them. And so when we when we want to eat, well, we got to first cook the deities, because the Gornitai's got to eat first. He's the master. So when I'm cooking for Gornitai, I'm looking for the best ingredients to put into this meal. Also, calling upon Radharani's mercy. Radharani is the emphasis of devotion, spirit of devotion. Without her mercy, it's very hard to cook for Gornitai, have these meals come out right. Because ultimately it's for Gornitai's satisfaction, not my satisfaction. I want to make sure Gornitai is satisfied first. And the icing on the cake is when, after it's been given to Gornitai, becomes prasadam. Gornitai is accepted in the love and devotion. And that prasadam gets distributed to devotees and people who show up at the temple. And many times we take some of this prasadam out on the streets with us and hand it out.
So the icing on the cake is get to see everyone else also being satisfied by eating this prasadam, by eating this meal that I originally made for the Lord. Wonderful, it's a wonderful mercy. Washing his dishes afterwards, cleaning the kitchen. All these things are acts of mercy. All these things are fulfilling when one acquires a taste serving Krishna. The taste is so sweet. Nectar is so sweet. Bhakti Yoga is the best pathway, the only pathway to get back to Krishna. Sure, there may be other pathways out there that people are boasting about. You could try Buddhism, but you're not going to have the satisfaction of serving Krishna through that. Buddhism, you're just trying to merge with the whole. Give up your individuality. Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga, you learn how to become the servant. Learning from the spiritual master how to love and serve Krishna. Move on to the next text. Text 27. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, and which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal. Report. The constitution of Brahman is immortality, imperishability, eternity, and happiness. Brahman is the beginning of transcendental realization, Paramatma, the supersoul. In the middle, the second stage in transcendental realization, and the Supreme Person of Godhead is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, both Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman are within the Supreme Person. It is explained in the 7th chapter that the material nature is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord impregnates inferior material nature with fragments of the superior nature. And that is the spiritual touch of material nature. When the living entity conditioned by this material nature begins the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and gradually rises up to the Brahman conception of the Supreme. This attainment of the Brahman conception of life is the first stage in self-realization. At this stage, the Brahman-realized person is transcendental to the material position, but he is not actually perfect in Brahman realization. If he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually rise up to the Paramatma realization and then to the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many examples of this in the Vedic literature. The 4 Kumaras were situated first in the personal Brahman conception of truth, but then they gradually rose to the platform of devotional service. One who cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal conception of Brahma runs the risk of falling down. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman without going further, with no information to the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. Therefore, in spite of being raised to the Brahman platform, there is a chance of falling down if one is not engaged in devotional service of the Lord. In Vedic language, it is also said, Rasavai sa rasmu evayam lavadapanadi bhavati. When one understands Krishna God, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. The Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences. When a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these 6 opulences. The servant of the king enjoys on an almost equal level with the king. And so eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of Brahman, or eternity, or imperishability, is included in devotional service. This is already possessed by a person who is engaged in devotional service. A living entity, although a Brahman by nature, has a desire to lord it over the material world, and due to this, he falls down. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the three modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in different modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these three modes, his desires to dominate the material world is there. By engagement in devotional service and full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in a transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering, the prescribed 9 methods for realizing devotional service, should be practiced in association devotees. Gradually, by association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one becomes firmly situated in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed from the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of foodstuff offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord has had his transcendental pastimes, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and observe the fasting days, commemorating the appearances and disappearances of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. One who can thus situate himself in Brahma-yogi is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and qualities. Thus ends the Bhagavad purports in the 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the 3 modes of material nature. Hare Krishna. Chapter 15. Yoga of the Supreme Person. Text 1. Thus the Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. Who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas? Report. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in the chapter that the purpose of the Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in the Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to the banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree in this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of the universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extraction should be understood in the previous chapters. It's been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement, and up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and detachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded, with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entities' activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now, there is no ready experience in this world for a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upwards. But there is such a thing that tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of the material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire. Just as the tree's reflection is situated on water, desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know that this tree truly through an ethical study, then he can cut off his relationship with it. This tree being a reflection of the real tree is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahma to be the root of the material tree, and from the root, according to the Sankhya philosophy, comes Prakti, Purusha, and then 3 gunas, and the 5 gross elements, Pancha, Mahabhakta, and the 10 senses, Dashendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world. If Brahma is the center of all manifestations, and this material world is a manifestation at the center by 180 degrees. The other 180 degrees constitutes the spiritual world. The material world is a perverted reflection is a perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality, the property in the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself. The property of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and that is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it's said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off the attachment to this material world. One knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as explained by the personality God himself, is to be cut down, this reflected tree, and obtain the real tree of the spiritual world. Wow. Any questions or comments on that so far? So the purpose of the Vedas is to realize God and get out of this world. So if you know the Bhagavad Gita, forming devotional service, you know the Vedas. Text 2. Translation. Branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the 3 modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down. These are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Report. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches are spread in all directions. In the lower parts there are variegated manifestations of living entities, such as human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated in the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts are higher forms of the living entities, the demigods, devas, fairies, and many other higher species of life. As the tree is nourished by water, so is the tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water. Sometimes the tract is very green. Similarly, where the modes of material nature are proportionally greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested in that proportion. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses, and by the senses we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The source of the senses, the ears, the nose, the eyes, etc., is considered to be the upper twigs, turned to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The leaves are sound, form, touch, the sense objects. The roots, which are subsidiary, are the byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. Thus we develop attachment and aversion. The tendency towards piety and impiety are considered to be the secondary roots, spreading in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma through fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Text 3 and 4. Translation. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this tree with weapons of attachment. So doing, one must seek that place from which, having once gone, one never returns, and there surrenders that supreme personality of Godhead, from whom everything is begun, from whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. 4. It is now clearly stated that the real form of this banyan tree cannot be understood in this material world. Since the root is upwards, the extension of the real tree is at the other end. No one can see how far this tree extends, nor can one conceive the beginning of this tree. Yet one has to find out the cause. I am the son of my father. My father is the son of such and such a person, etc. By searching this way, one comes to the Brahma, who is generated by I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time pronouncing today. Garbhodakshai, Vishnu. Finally, in this way, when one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the end of research work. One has to search out the origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who are under the knowledge of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality. And by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. The word asanga is very important. In this connection, because the attachment for sense enjoyment and lording it over the material nature is very strong, therefore one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. As a result of such discussion and the association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the first thing one must do is surrender to Him. The description of that place whence going no one returns to this false reflected tree is given here. Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original root from whom everything has emanated. To gain favor of that Personality of Godhead, one has only to surrender, and this is the result of performing devotional service by hearing, chanting, etc. It is the cause of this extension of the material world. This is already explained by the Lord Himself. Aham sarvasya prabha. I am the origin of everything. Therefore, to get out of this entanglement of the strong bonding tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders unto Krishna, he becomes detached automatically from material contamination. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do have a question. So, I think it's on text 1 in the purport. But I can't find where it was. So,
You forgot your question?
no, I don't know. I don't know where it is in the purport.
Oh.
And I don't know, and it was in the purport.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to text 5 here. Probably our last text this evening. Reading. One who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material loves, and is free from the duality of happiness and distress, who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains that eternal kingdom. Report. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. One is always expecting some honor in his material world. It is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has a foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under his impression. People consider that the land, this earth, belongs to human society. They have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is free from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false association caused by familial, social, and national affections. These fake associations bind one to this material world. After the stage, one has to actually his own, and what is actually not his own. After the stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge, one has to cultivate, I'm losing my place. One has to cultivate of what is actually his own and what One has an understanding of things as they are, becomes free from all dual consumption. Such happiness and distress, pleasure and pain becomes full in knowledge. This is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. So that's our time for today. Adakita Ki Jai.
Please.